AI has lots of problems. Social problems, ethical problems, climate problems. But today I want to talk about UX. And I think that AI has a UX problem. This is kind of a loaded thesis statement, but here's what I mean. 7 years of OpenAI's research only worked once they put it with a chat interface. Cursor became the fastest growing software as a service platform once they merged a copilot into a code editor. Granola entered one of the most saturated markets for AI, and it completely blew the competition away with its focus on human agency. And Descript has swept past scores of editing software by stealing the user experience of word processors. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how to design better experiences for AI, just like these companies have done. And if you stick around to the end, I'll tell you my prediction for what the best AI tools of 2025 should look like. But before we get into all that, let me just say, hey, I'm Parvin. I'm a designer and design educator, and I make videos here on YouTube teaching everyone about how to become better designers. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please do hit subscribe and join me on this journey. So Cursor, Granola, and Descript have all been built on top of kind of standard functionality that comes from large language models. So I think now more than ever is the time to build amazing experiences using the technology that exists. It's kind of like a gold rush for software creators.
It's a gold rush.
Because the functionalities available because of large language models are just way more competent than anything that's come before. So in preparing this video, I looked up best practices for designing for AI, and so many articles are just advising people on how to slap a chatbot onto something. And I think why the companies I mentioned before are doing so well is because they haven't jumped on the hype train, and instead they're really thoughtfully starting from scratch. The number one rule of UX is to know your user, to understand what their needs are, what their problems are, and then create opportunities to solve those problems. You'll often see this in frameworks like pain points and pain relievers, or the lean startup canvas. All of these processes and frameworks are just trying to get you to understand what your users' needs are. AI just isn't helpful if it doesn't match those user needs. So you're not gonna like this, but the big secret isn't a secret at all. It's just the standard UX process. Firstly, you've got to look at key user journeys split up by user segment, and analyze places where there are drop-offs or pain points or error rates or long time to complete a task. And as well as looking at those failure or frustration points, you should also look at the success points and see what things are going well. Once you've got a good understanding of that kind of user journey, that's where ideation comes in. But instead of just doing a normal ideation session, here's where you can bring in ideas around what generative AI unlocks. So things like transcribing, summarizing, generating, comparing different things, even using like agentic AI, going off and doing Google searches, or using stuff to do with model context protocol. If you're working with something which uses a JSON data object, you can get an AI LLM to hook into that using an MCP. And also, like all good ideation sessions, it's important to not just have designers or PMs in the room. It's important to have all parts of a business involved. And when ideating on this stuff, it's important to remember that really high accuracy output from AI is basically impossible. You're never gonna get past the hallucination problem reliably.
Hey, you're a hallucination. You're a hallucination.
And so it's better to just accept those limitations and work out something which is viable with the technology as it exists. Some important areas to consider is what input UX and output UX should look like. I think looking at Granola as an example of this is amazing, because what they did, which other transcription software wasn't looking at, was they looked at the input UX. Instead of just having a passive robot listening in a meeting, you're the person with agency. You're the person who's making notes, and then AI is kind of adding on to that. It's enhancing it, but it's not replacing you. And then of course, the UX process isn't done at this point. After you've come up with ideas and you've built out solutions, you then have to test. And here I'd really recommend testing comprehension. So seeing if users comprehend new features, understand what they're trying to do, and measuring adoption rates. So seeing if people actually go in and try stuff. And if you're worried about investing loads of time of engineering time or dev time into integrating new AI features, then you could also try a false door experiment. So a false door experiment is where you put up a little button or a widget or a card or something pointing to a new feature, but you don't actually build out the feature. and you just measure how many users kind of click onto that. This will help you make a decision about whether it's something worth building. So I think the secret to designing good UX for AI just isn't really a secret. It's just following that standard UX process that we all know. And I think the best AI that we're gonna see in 2025 and in the years to come is quiet AI. I think it's the kind of processing that just happens in the background. It doesn't have any bells and whistles. For the majority of users, they won't even know that it's using AI. I think it will be something that does tedious jobs that users have had to spend ages doing in the past, and it just kind of solves those problems without anyone ever having to worry about them. Anyway, that's all from me. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do give it a like below. It really helps me as I'm trying to grow out this channel. Thanks so much for watching, and see you on the next one. Cheers.